ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
Oh, it's the Herd on ESPN Radio, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Thanks for making us part of your day, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests via the Subway Fresh Take Hotline and simulcast today, live from Los Angeles on ESPNU. How are you today? How am I today? It is good to be here. I'll tell you what. I bet management's listening to me today. I never can quite tell if management's listening. I think they'll be listening today. It's great to be here. So let's just get out of the way the stuff that's been on the internet, all right? I've always tried to present a very authentic show. Yes, I'm leaving ESPN. It's been unbelievable. And I don't want to get melancholy here. It's amicable. I'm on the air today talking about it. That tells you the relationship I have with this company and with my bosses, who are friends for life. Years ago, over 10 years ago, I was just a local radio guy, okay? And Tony Kornheiser was amazing. He's a brilliant man, brilliant writer, media icon. And he was leaving. And they could have picked a million guys out of New York, L.A., Chicago, Dallas. Many applied. It was a good job. I was told at the time it was the best syndicated radio job opening in sports in the history of the business. And they chose me. From a small market. Nobody'd heard of me. ESPN had guts. They had courage. They rolled the dice. A guy flew into Portland. We got a rare snowstorm. He was stuck there 4 days. John McConnell listening to me. And he recommended me. It's been the best 10 years of my life. Who am I kidding? Yep, I'm leaving ESPN. Friends, relationships, did everything I could, worked my tail off, and they've treated me fabulously. I got no complaints. I've got no complaints. By the way, they offered me a great new contract, incredibly fair, could not have been more reasonable, never argued, totally transparent. It wasn't about the money. It was about the funny. I want for the rest of my career until I quit. Because I've seen so many guys, they get to be 50, they make some money, then the quality of their stuff goes down. I've seen it everywhere. I see it now. And I thought, for the best me, the most challenged me, the most inspired me, to do the best me for you, I needed a new mission. Bill Parcells is one of my all-time favorite guests and coaches. And as I made the decision to leave ESPN, I kept going back to Bill Parcells. And that Bill Parcells liked building. He didn't like maintaining. He liked building. So do I. As Pat Riley said once, about every 10 years, you should try to reinvent yourself. That's all this is. There's no animosity. There's no anger. My friends, I've talked about this situation for 6 months. I've leaned on my wife. I've leaned on friends, business partners, media people that are a lot smarter than me. And I just came down to a situation where the best me for eventually you was in risk. I like risk. It's where all the fun is. And so after 10 plus years, my timing in this business has generally been pretty good. I just felt it was time. I've been treated fabulously. They elevated me to a point well beyond what I could have elevated myself. And I think in some small way, at times I made ESPN a little more interesting from 10 to 1 Eastern. That's what I did. They'll flourish without me, and I hope to sometime, somewhere, it'll all come out in the next couple of days, find a little tiny granular niche. I'm going to have a radio show. It'll be on Sirius. I'll have a podcast. It'll be free. I'll have a simulcast. I'll have my book October 1st. And hopefully some of you will find me. I grew up with a mother who watched one station her entire life, King TV in Seattle. I don't think she ever changed the dial. It took her 3 years to find her son, me. Where are you again? I'm not on Channel 5 in Seattle, Mom. You're going to have to use the remote. In this world we live in, You have the power. I don't. You have it. Come find me. ESPN's statement was perfect. This was mutually beneficial. The fact I'm allowed on the air today to talk about this, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Follow my Twitter account. I'll tell you where I'm going. You can read internet stuff. Some stuff's been printed. Most of it pretty accurate. I don't think this is the time or the place. And frankly, ESPN's allowing me on. I'm not here to promote other networks. That's not beneficial for them. And in the end, I think it lacks a certain dignity. There you go. All right, you want to talk sports? I've been off for a few days. All the days I was off were previously scheduled. So, I said this like on Thursday. Folks, it's July. Okay? It's July, and I'm a sports radio host, okay? There's not a lot out there. But actually, we're getting closer to football. I love football, so it's good for me. And I'm going to start with basketball, but there'll be a lot of football on today's show. Today is 50 days to the NFL season, okay? And I get excited. I'm not going to lie. I like football. My first day on the air, replacing Tony Kornheiser, who has become somebody I've admired greatly and has been so kind to me. And I have no idea who's taken my show, but I wish them the very best, like Tony wished me the best. And I'll be on here for, I think, another few days. We're negotiating that. Is that I said the first day I took this show over, I said, I love football. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a baseball guy. Now, I like talking baseball. I used to be a baseball play-by-play guy. I'm a football guy. I like the NFL. I like college. I'll watch a great high school game if it's like the best team in Texas against the second-best team in Texas. I like recruiting. We're 50 days out. But I want to lead just briefly, and I'm not sure where it will go, with this basketball story. And speaking of stories that'll flame out in a week, like me moving, former NBA GM says Becky Hammon deserves a head coaching job in the NBA. Whoa, she's a woman. What? Well, you can give another ex-Laker a job or Becky Hammon. Why not? Would the players respect her? What, does LeBron respect David Blatt? I mean, really? She didn't play. Neither did Popovich, Spoelstra, Brad Stevens. Does Thibodeau look like he was a former NBA great? Really? He barely fits into a suit. Forget a uniform. Yes, it would be a circus for about 2 days. So what? Then the Spurs or any team she was on coaching would win 5 straight games and nobody would care. Here's what we know about America in 2015 when it comes to big stories. Because of the media, how fluid it is, how massive it is, the media has become a strobe light of stories. You know, the Rachel Dolezal story. A white woman identified herself as black. For 2 days, it took over America. Then it was over. Twitter is a machine gun of hot takes and controversies. I mean, that's what it is. It's a strobe light. Becky Hammon, NBA coach, big story. Wait, what? Kanye and Kim said, what? Donald Trump said, what? Another breakup for Taylor Swift? What? Somebody got eaten by a shark in the Carolinas? What? Becky Hammon, NBA coach. Oh, my God, it's unbelievable. For about 2 days, she'd win a few games, and everybody be, she's fine. That's the world we live in. Good luck to Becky. Why not? Half of you want Donald Trump as president. I can't have Becky Hammon as an NBA head coach. Come on. You vote for Trump, I'll vote for Becky. Why not? Celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, or even just because. 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Special deals, flowers gifts starting at $29. Coming up next, the NFL walks a fine line, and one player now calling him out for it.
Want more of the herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
It has been a fairly exhausting couple of weeks for me, folks. Very emotional. So I am gathering up as much energy I can for the next 2.5 hours. Let's have fun today, tomorrow, Friday, and we'll take it from there. All good stuff. All good stuff. I saw this. Remember Tony Romo? I think I told you this. Tony Romo's people had called me and said, hey, Tony Romo's doing this event in Las Vegas. He wants to take you to dinner. He's a fan of the show. And Tony wants you to come. Could you support sort of his fantasy football event? And I've always liked Tony. The 2 or 3 times I've met him, he's been so complimentary and so gracious that I said, sure, whatever it is, I don't care about the fees. Just I'll do whatever Tony wants. It's Vegas. I love Vegas. So I was scheduled, this was a couple of months ago, to go to this fantasy football convention they were having in Las Vegas, and Tony Romo and his guys had organized it. It was not a huge moneymaker for Tony Romo. It wasn't. I got some insight on it. Tony, who is known as a very good teammate and a very good guy, he was going to make some money, but it was about making some players some money, and it was also about the growth of fantasy football, which is pretty cool. It is pretty cool, and it's real. Well, the NFL stepped in at the very last second and said, no, you can't do it. Well, the company for Tony's fantasy football event is now suing the NFL. And we had Tony Romo on a couple of days later. Once they did it, he did not tell us there would be litigation. But I will tell you this. I'm reading the story today, and a couple of things jump out to me. The NFL also told the NFL Network's Michael Fabiano that if he remained the host of the event, he could lose his job, the suit claims. That I don't like. That, to me, feels underhanded. The other thing that jumps out to me, and this lawsuit is not gigantic. They're asking for $1 million in damages. This just shows you Tony Romo's not trying to get rich. They're asking for $1 million in damages. That is nothing. NFL could write that check on a napkin today. I mean, it means that's like ESPN writing a check. Come on. That's like Nike writing a check. It means nothing. This is not a money grab. What always bothered me about this was the hypocrisy of the NFL, which has absolutely benefited from gambling and acknowledges they like this fantasy football growth as much as anybody. And that's what Tony Romo said when he came on the show. He said, I asked him, did the NFL just cancel this because they didn't get a piece of the money?
The more information that you get in front that people bring up or make it a little silly, and that makes you think it's sometimes about money. I know the Detroit Lions just signed, there's a club in the field level, they just signed a deal with the MGM Grand, and I got this email that talks about how no players or NFL personnel are to be associated. I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense. And there's just far too many cases, and it does make it sound sometimes like it's an issue about money, which is disappointing because we're just trying to get the fans to hang out with players.
I really did believe, and this is why I signed up for it, I thought it was a really cool thing. Players could interact with fans, and this fantasy football thing is taking over the world. It starts with guys like Matthew Berry. Now it's these massive billion-dollar companies, and the growth potential, well, forget potential, the growth numbers are mind-boggling. Here's the other thing, and this is why the NFL here, and for the record, any company I would work for, outside of like an HBO, has a relationship with the NFL. ESPN's never told me what to say, period, about anything, and specifically not about the NFL. Just to throw another compliment ESPN's way, they've never told me what to say. I get that all the time. You are protecting. I'm never told what to say. Hell, they let me on this morning to talk about leaving, and they never tell me what to say. They have been incredible that way. They never tell me what to say about the NFL. I will say this. The NFL can be heavy-handed. Anybody that's done business with them for the last 25 years know they can be heavy-handed. So can a lot of big, powerful companies. The second thing is, here's another story. Documents show that the Department of Justice and the NFL have recently argued that sports betting is skill-based. Yes, the NFL in legal proceedings in 2013 and 2003 argued, the NFL did, that betting football is a game of skill. This is what I've said about gambling, sports gambling. State lotteries statistically prey on the poorest people. That's who plays state lotteries, the poorest people. Really? That's good? And they're games of total luck and chance. They also have an 80% hold. They keep overwhelmingly the money you put in, and that's legal. Yet sports betting, where data and analysis, skill can win you money, and they have a much smaller hold, you can double your money. 10 guys could bet, 10 guys could win, we could all double our money. 10 guys play the lottery, one guy maybe statistically wins, The other 9 get nothing. So, I think we're in a country now where can we stop pretending gay marriage doesn't bother anybody? Stop arguing over it. Medicinal pot is legal in 23 states. It'll be legal in 48 in an hour. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I mean, the legal marijuana is growing so fast, I'm not so sure that was a Marine layer I saw driving to work this morning. Okay? So betting the Dodgers Padres illegal, the whole country smoking a fatty simultaneously legal. Blunt yes, betting no. Come on. Do better, America. Do better, NFL. And Tony, give me another Tony Romo. What really bothered him, he just didn't think the NFL handled canceling this thing properly.
If they really wanted to just be a part of it, all they had to do was call and ask. It would have been a lot easier, I think, than going about the process the way they did. And we understand these things come about, and there's big money involved sometimes from the NFL's perspective. If we'd have known about the issue of the event at the place, or we thought that was something that could have been an issue, the NFL could have told us that right away, and that's where it makes it interesting.
Yeah. Well, another interesting guy from the Big D in Dallas, Mark Cuban, will join me. We'll talk about a bunch of stuff. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive. Call or click today. Find out if you could save. Did he learn anything from DeAndre Jordan? Why won't great players go to the Mavs? Trump for president. He'll talk about all of them. Mark Cuban next. The Herd.
Geico presents Strange Saving Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
All right, Mark, let's start with this on a personal note. You just had an eye appointment, I was told yesterday by our guest booker. My dad was an optometrist. I don't know how old you are, but at 44 years old, I woke up and couldn't see anymore. How's your vision?
My vision is good. I just had to get my prescription for my contacts updated.
Okay.
So all is good.
Okay, I worry about that. You've got to see the future on our show, so I need your vision to be good.
Absolutely.
Well, let's go back into the past a little. Generally, we bring you on and talk about the future, but DeAndre Jordan, it's all over now. Big picture, wrap a bow in it. What did you learn, if anything?
Nothing.
Really?
Seriously. I mean, look, in all types of businesses, you have to understand the person you're dealing with. There's things we didn't understand about him, didn't know about him, gave him credit for that we probably shouldn't have given him credit for, and it was a decision he couldn't stick to, and it's over. That's just the way it works. And so if I had to do it all over again, would I quarantine him? Would I I think the only thing I would have done differently is make him change his Twitter profile picture right off the bat. Because I think by having it just stay the way it was, it gave him an out. He hadn't fully committed. So just having him change his social media profiles right then was something I thought about, and I thought, nah, that's not an issue. Let's not bring it up. But what happens? You move on. Next.
Yeah, we talked about this for about 5 days, and the one thing I said was, if you watch that show you're on, which I find very consumable, Shark Tank, have you ever had a verbal deal on TV on Shark Tank? Then you look at the data and go, I'm out of here.
Of course. I mean, look, every big business you do due diligence, and again, look, people change their mind. I don't have a problem with that. Richard Jefferson called me yesterday or the day before, and we had a long talk, and he changed his mind, and it made sense for both parties to say, okay, let's be friends. One of the things I've learned, and I learned it probably with Steve Nash, life's a long, 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 long time. Basketball is a short career. It may be 5, it may be 10, it may be, if you're lucky, 15 years of your life, and there's a whole lot more where you discuss going to the eye doctor, and it's a lot more important. Yeah. And so, you put things in context. Now, from a Mavs standpoint, did it screw us up just because of the way, the nature of free agency? I think we've recovered nicely so far, so it's not, but it wasn't optimal.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do?
Yeah, Mark Cuban joining us. I've said this ad nauseum. No state tax, great head coach, wonderful city. easy to get around. You, high-profile, cool owner. And yet there's a sense in the league, Dallas can't quite get that one guy. You are a very good, not only a visionary in business, but you have a good sense of why things happen. Why can't Dallas quite get that guy? Some say that you're too big as an owner.
I mean, look, it's only been the last 3-4 years where we've ever had cap room, right? And if you look at the number of free agents that have switched teams, that if they're not all-stars or MVP candidates are, potential all-stars or are considered for all-star teams, Monte and Wes Matthews, we've gotten our share. It's just, the one guy every summer rarely changes teams, and look, and even when you have a situation like DeAndre, makeup sex is always the best sex, right? But then after the makeup sex is over, you stare at that same face and you realize the problems are the same. And so, it's hard for people to free agents to get past that sometimes. And, I don't think we've missed out on a lot. It's just that it's high risk, high reward, and we're not afraid to go for it.
Mark Cuban, Mavs owner, my only billionaire friend, the Herd on ESPN Radio. So Sharknado 3's tonight at 9 on the Sci-Fi Channel. You play the president, and I thought that would be a nice segue into Donald Trump's surging popularity.
Well, first you got to check out the movie tonight. It's amazing. It's as cheesy comes, which makes it hysterical. So, yeah, it's good. And ask me anything you want about the Donald. I'm happy to talk.
Well, what? I talked to a friend yesterday, and he said, Colin, what do you make of it? And I said, it tells you the rest of the GOP candidates are a yawn. That was my first takeaway. What does it say to you, his, maybe it's a flash, but his kind of fireworks show that's surging in the polls?
Well, two things. One, his name recognition is better than, I couldn't name all 15 Republican candidates. That's one. Two, I think people are tired of politics as usual. We're tired of everything being scripted. We're tired of every comment being politically correct. And, and even though Donald has to spend a lot of time pulling not just his foot, but the toenails and the stuff that falls off his cuticles out of his mouth, at least it's refreshing to have somebody who's just going to say what's on their mind and give an honest, if not insensitive response to a question. To me, it's great. Would I vote for him? No, but I don't know that I'd vote for any of the other 14 candidates, and I don't know that I'd vote for the Democratic candidates right now either.
Yeah,
so I think it's refreshing.
Yeah, I think after 12 debates and closer inspection, but there is something. There's so little authenticity out there, Mark. I think that's why you're popular and Charles Barkley is popular. Is that politics is so broken in our country? If nothing else, Donald is refreshing.
Yeah,
even if he's clumsy.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's always been his nature. And, being authentic, being open, being honest in this day and age requires either an ignorance of social media, in the case of Charles Barkley, who I love, obviously, but he just avoids all social media, or just an inability to understand social media, which is Donald Trump. He's just so, incapable of doing social media right. That it doesn't matter to him what people say on there. And so, and to me, I just try to be authentic because, I don't care. I think I know, with CyberDust and all the other things, I try to shrink my digital footprint and control it. So I think I can be authentic and feel free to say what I think is the right thing to say.
And it's interesting, you do almost always control your narrative. I work in the media, and I don't always trust it, and I have few friends in it. How would you describe your relationship with the American media?
Oh, fine, because I've got a hammer. I think, when someone comes at me on Twitter or something, first I understand that there's so much noise on Twitter that you have to be able to differentiate what's the true signal versus the noise. And then if someone, makes something up, I could hit them on CyberDust where I can be a lot more personal. I can hit them on Twitter. I can go on Colin, and talk to you. I can go on television. So I've got a big sledgehammer. So, I think that's enabled me to kind of be on par with anybody in the media and feel comfortable that I'm going to be able to stand up for myself. And since they know that, they're a little bit fairer to me. Look, there's exceptions. I wasn't driving around Houston looking for addresses,
right.
but I worked that out with Chris, and he took it down, and we're friends, and we have no problems with each other. So I think I've got enough of a hammer and an understanding and a platform that I can stand up for myself, and that changes my relationship with the media.
Mark Cuban, Sharknado 3 tonight, 9 Eastern, Sci-Fi, and yes, I will watch it and have a report tomorrow on it. I'm the modern-day movie critic, so we will watch Sharknado 3 tonight. I believe Adam Silver, of all the current commissioners, is the smartest. That's just my opinion. I was in a conversation last night with somebody in California, in Los Angeles, where I now live, about the end game with Netflix and what it's doing, and they'll ultimately just become another big network and have the same problems every big network has. That was our takeaway. But whether we were right or wrong, we got into a discussion of the NFL putting a game on Yahoo.
Right.
And I believe, and he believes, the man I talked to last night, they are going to closely monitor that. And if they can get any traction, that the NFL, that could be a scary proposition for the ESPNs and everybody else out there. Mark, what is the end game in this Netflix cable TV? What is it?
The same end game it was 20 years ago when we pioneered streaming. Bits are bits. It doesn't matter whether they're transported over a satellite dish, over a cable wire, wirelessly from a cell tower, LTE 4, LTE 5 coming. They don't care, right? They're agnostic on how they're carried. And so as a result, people are going to want to consume what they want, where they want, and how they want it.
Yes.
That's been the perspective for 20 plus years now. We literally streamed just audio the first Super Bowl in 1996. So this has been an evolution. And so where it goes in terms of Yahoo streaming an NFL game, you're going to have all the above, right? Because the one thing about streaming in traditional means or regular television, which is digital and it is a stream, so doing it in a traditional way is you have control over the delivery mechanism. There's no contention with anybody else. With the Yahoo stream, with any stream at all, with the stream of this show, if little Johnny decides that he wants to put a virtual reality at 1 gigabit a second to his other buddies in the neighborhood, they could eat up all the bandwidth in the neighborhood, and that NFL game is going to stutter and buffer, or it's going to have to be cached, and you're going to be 20 minutes behind everybody else. And so there's always going to be risk inherent in traditional streaming because you can't control all the variables. So that said, streaming is still going to be beneficial for the NFL and the NBA because if I'm at work and I have my phone or I have an iPad or I have a laptop, it's the only way I'm going to see it. If I'm sitting on a train somewhere and I'm able to get it that way, we're going to consume the best possible way to get the content, whereas in the past we just didn't have those choices.
Yeah, we do. If there was a media company you could own today, who do you like the next 20 years? Is there one?
Well, I bought a boatload of Netflix stock. Netflix is a media company. They're not a transport company, right? They're still, while they do a lot of technology on their own, their best technology comes from how they aggregate and present the content they have and from creating content. They're not a satellite company. They're not an internet provider. They're not, and so I think I own a lot of Netflix. I own a lot of Apple, Bright Cove. I guess I'm hedged with a little bit of everything. I don't think there's any one company that's going to dominate. But what I do think is the big question mark is how far can wireless technologies go? So, now we look at our phone and we say, we got LTE 4, there's going to be LTE 5 and there's going to be LTE 6. And the speed and bandwidth that's available through the spectrum there is going to be dramatically better. How much better will define where media goes. Because if we can I'll put it another way, we talk about cutting the cord, right? That's a big conversation.
Yeah.
Going from traditional cutting of the cord of watching television and satellite to be able to just go all broadband. The next cutting of the cord, and I saw a survey where between 8 and 10% with the margin of error, people are already doing this. The next cutting of the cord is to cut the broadband cable and just use wireless for everything, which is why I thought, the FCC, the Department of the Internet, killing the Comcast merger was ridiculous, because all these ISPs, whether it's Charter and Time Warner, Comcast, AT&T and DirecTV, they're all going to face so much cut-the-cord pressure from new wireless technologies in the next 10 years that we're going to find ourselves facing a whole new cut-the-cord perspective. And so I want those companies to be able to invest in new transport technologies for both wired and unwired. So, you wanted to geek out, there's your geek out answer.
Will you come on, if I go to another network like all the internet, reports, will you come on that show too?
Of course. And hey, and since I always pitch something, the new version of Cyberdust is out today. Make sure you download, everybody who's downloaded and tried it, and we'll use it to promote your new show on your new network. But it's a whole new look. It's a whole new feel. You're going to go crazy over it. It's really cool.
Mark, I always love you coming on the show, man.
It's always a pleasure, Colin, and congratulations.
You're in the Herd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
As I addressed an hour ago, I am leaving ESPN. You can listen to my podcast. We will put up after the show for all the details. Thank you for continued support, and thank you for this company I work for today, which has given me the honor and privilege to work here for over a decade and had the decency, the dignity, and the class to let me broadcast today and even note and mention that I'm leaving. Let's get back to sports. This is Mike Sando. I think he started this column last year. I could be wrong, guys. I think he started it last year, where he goes and he talks to 30 or 40 NFL insiders, scouts, GMs, coaches, 35 guys, every team, right? And front office execs, and they vote anonymously on the best quarterback in the NFL. It's quarterback league. And there's 4 tiers. Tier 1 is guys who can carry a team week after week, even with a bad defense. Tier 2 is a little less consistent, need a little more help, but could win you a Super Bowl. Tier 3 is need a lot of support, but if they have it, I'd say like an Alex Smith, they can win you games. Tier 4, you stink. So it won't be in the league long. Nobody wants a Tier 4 quarterback. Most don't want a Tier 3. So of all the votes, there was a tie for first between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. Now, I have said for the last several years, Aaron's the most talented guy in the league. I think Tom Brady's a better natural leader. I think Alex Rodriguez is more talented than Derek Jeter at their best. Derek's a better leader. There's a lot of guys in the NBA. Dominique Wilkins was talented. Magic was a better leader. Just because you're the best talent doesn't mean you're the best leader. Rasheed Wallace is the best athlete I ever covered. He wasn't a very good leader. Okay, Tim Duncan may not have as much natural talent. He was a better leader and talented. So Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers tie for first. The amazing thing about Tom Brady, which Peyton Manning fans will never acknowledge, the Patriots have had 25 different players start at running back, receiver, and tight end in the last 3 years. 25. Okay, that is among the highest in the league. Peyton Manning's had 15, same categories. It is the lowest in the league. Tom Brady, as he's aged, has done it with a lot of Julian Edelmans, Wes Welkers, and undrafted free agents. He did not go like Manning to his second team filled with Pro Bowlers. So it goes Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady tied for first, Andrew Luck third, Ben Roethlisberger, a little high for my taste, but he's great, 4, and Peyton Manning 5. Again, people think I'm anti-Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's one of the 5 best quarterbacks I've ever watched. He's one of the 5 best. Brady's the best. Montana, John Elway are probably my top 3. Then I'd go Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, and then you're splitting hairs. Steve Young, Terry Bradshaw, Troy Aikman, Dan Fouts was amazing. I didn't see Y.A. Tittle. Peter King always tells me how great Y.A. Tittle was. Otto Graham. I don't count guys who played with their bare head. If you didn't wear a helmet, I'm not interested. I never saw Otto Graham play. I have no idea. I know he won a bunch of games, but I don't even think they wore shoes back then. They just played in their bare feet. I'm not going to count that. So, the list is comprehensive. Drew Brees 6, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson is 8. Now, I've said I consider Russell Wilson to be an A- quarterback, like a Chris Bosh in the NBA. Not going to carry a team, but is really, really good and undervalued by too many people. I think he is, and here's what NFL people said. If you count poise, smarts, athletic ability, he's a very good 2. I don't see him taking over games from a throwing standpoint, but if you add everything in, he is a solid 2. Tony Romo got number 9. Quote, last year, said an NFL insider, played like a 1 because they ran it and kept the ball out of his hands at times, but he is unequivocally a top 7-8 quarterback in the league. I agree with that. So they have Flacco at 10. I would have Big Ben a little lower and Joe Flacco a little higher. I think Joe Flacco is the most underrated player in the league along with Russell Wilson. I think they're the most underrated players in the league. Joe Flacco's big, strong, more mobile than you think, and has been fearless on the road, fearless in big games. I think he's underrated. Eli Manning, 12. Then it's a bunch of Cam Newtons, Matt Stafford, Carson Palmer, blah, 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 blah. Where do they have Andy Dalton?
I think he's tied for 18. You got to dig through a few pages before you find him.
Yeah, I got to dig through. It's like an encyclopedia.
What, are you taking shots at him now?
I'm not taking shots at him. Where's Andy Dalton? I can barely find him. Andy Dalton's a boring water pistol. That's enough, but I can barely. Boy, he's just ahead of Sam Bradford, who can't stay healthy.
He's a hack.
That's not a hack. I'm just saying, where's he at?
Dalton stinks. That guy's a winner. Middle of the pack. He's a winner.
I would take Andy. Okay, here's a question for you. Andy Dalton, Alex Smith. Tomorrow, who do you take?
Dalton 10 times out of 10.
I take Dalton, too, barely. Andy Dalton's a Nissan Maxima. By the way, I used to drive a Nissan Maxima. Briefly, before it caught fire on the freeway. Not going to get into that. Not going to get into that story.
There is a story you've been avoiding all day, I will say. We've sent it to you at least 3 times. I know you're 3,000 miles away, but we've been trying to get you to do a story, and you refuse to do it.
I'll do it at the bottom of the hour if I have time. I'm very bit. I've got a.
You're skirting it again. You got time right now, and you're still skirting it.
It's 8 after the hour. I've got to get to Mike Sando, who wrote this NFL. I wish I had time. You know, I wish I've got sponsors. I've got moral obligations.
You got nothing else to say for the next 3 minutes. You're stalling.
You know what? I'd like to get to that story, but I'll just save it for 30 minutes. There's no reason. I want to give it time to breathe. I'm not going to rush this story. It deserves so much of a commitment. Why don't we break early?
Oh, look at this. Someone ran out of things to say. You won't go to the story.
I'll get to the story. It's one we...
Everyone's been asking about what your opinion is on this. Everyone wants to know what you're going to say. That's why they're tuned in today.
All right, we'll do it on the. We'll do it before the end of the hour.
Is this a tease?
Maybe it is.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt, frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
This is a story I am reluctant to talk about, but I'm getting so many people reaching out and asking me to address it. So here it is. James Harden has been named MVP at the NBA Player Association's first annual Players Awards.
Woo! About time!
I am sick to my stomach.
Well deserved.
You guys are jerks.
LeBron who?
So the players voted on 10 awards. LeBron didn't get the MVP. No. They gave it to James Harden. Yeah. I guess playing the other end of the floor doesn't matter much anymore. Call me old school. I think you have to D-up occasionally late in games. You know my history. I don't like the thing he does with his hand after he scores. About a month ago, I went crazy on James Harden. I think we have the tape, John.
Hey, I just scored a basket here. I'm stirring the pot. Hey, I had oatmeal this morning. Hey, and raisins. Hey, circle the pot. Hey,
Whatever. Okay, listen. The players did vote. The player you secretly wish was on your team, LeBron James. Best home court, Golden State, blah. Hardest to guard, Steph Curry. Clutch performer, Steph Curry. Best defender, DeAndre Jordan. Jimmy Butler's pretty good. Best rookie, Andrew Wiggins. I agree with that. This is interesting. Player you'd want to destroy your team from the inside, Carmelo Anthony. No other players were nominated for this award, but James Harden was named the MVP. You know, here's the thing about players. They're stupid, apparently.
Colin, just quickly, John added that Melo award. That wasn't an actual award.
Oh,
you were duped by your own staff. John is tricking with you. He just wanted to make you make fun of Carmelo.
Okay.
I just want to clear that up for the record. That wasn't an actual award.
I will say this. Now, people think I hate Houston. Can I just tell you, Daryl Morey, their general manager, reached out to me. I've had a few people, as I have acknowledged to start the show today. I am leaving ESPN, and you can go to the podcast and listen to it. It's very amicable. Obviously, I'm on the air. Daryl Morey reached out to me, and I told him, he's their general manager. He's a buddy of Bill Simmons. And I told him, I said, they got that Ty Lawson trade. I'm going to tell you something. I'm not anti-Houston. Have you seen Houston's roster? And I know everybody thinks, I think James Harden's a little overplayed because I think the playoffs are what make the NBA. And I think it's 7 minutes in the game in the playoffs that make the NBA. And James Harden won't play at a level on the other end that a Chris Paul will or a LeBron will. But just to show you that I don't hate Houston, I went through Houston's roster today. And let's say Sam Decker, who was a first-round pick, becomes a serviceable player. Trevor Ariza, Patrick Beverly, Corey Brewer, Sam Decker, James Harden, Dwight Howard, Terrence Jones, Ty Lawson, Monty Eunice, who was hurt at the end of the year, a very good player. Big. He's a 6'11", 7-foot guy. They've got like 8 to 9 legitimate players. So James Harden is going to end up in the Western Conference Finals next year. He's going to end up there. I think he'll end up there against Golden State. I think the Clippers are interesting. But for those who think I hate James Harden, that team, Houston, is ridiculous.
Colin, just for the record, it sounded like a prediction there, but James Harden and the Rockets were already in the Western Conference Finals this year against the Warriors.
I know. They got some breaks this year. Next year, they'll earn it on their own. There'll be no breaks.
You are ridiculous.
They will dominate. They will dominate most of the year in the Western Conference. Daryl, he has put together an incredible roster. If Sam Decker can play at all, just a little, they have 9 guys. They can match up athletically with Golden State. They can. I don't know if anybody can match up. And they've got a little bit of a Curry in James Harden. I like Curry better, but they've got a little bit of a Curry in James Harden. ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with a Name Your Price tool to find a tool that works for you and a price that works for you. Okay, last couple of days, there's been a lot of college football, SEC Media Day, Big Ten, blah, 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 blah. Brett Bielema used to be a really good football coach at Wisconsin. Now he's a really good football coach at Arkansas in the SEC. He was on the Ryan Russillo show, and he said, listen, I'm not just saying this because I'm in the SEC now, but the SEC and the Big Ten aren't even comparable.
It's not even in the ballpark. And believe me, I played at Iowa. I coached at Iowa. I coached at Wisconsin. I have a lot of respect for everything, but it's just not even comparable. There was only 2 games, maybe a year, where you felt the other team might be better than you, and that's just not the case here.
Here's where he's right. Athletically, the SEC is a better conference. They put more guys in the NFL, especially in the first 2 rounds. That is not debatable. I follow recruiting. It ain't close. But I will say this. So much of college football is coaching. And that's why you can get 2 different Alabama teams and 2 different Ohio State teams based on who the coach is. 2 different Michigan State teams. 10 years ago, the Big Ten had 70-year-old Joe Paterno at Penn State, John L. Smith at Michigan State and cranky Lloyd Carr at Michigan, and the limited conservative Jim Tressel. Now you got Mark D'Antonio at Michigan State, a top 10 coach in the country. Urban Meyer, lapsed Jim Tressel. James Franklin, energetic, young, elite recruiter. And Jim Harbaugh, who's an upgrade over Lloyd Carr. I don't know. I think Mike Riley's a good coach. We'll see how it goes. I don't know much about Paul Chryst at Wisconsin. He was so-so at Pitt. Wisconsin's a pretty good program. But if you're talking about the big dogs at the big programs today, D'Antonio, Meyer, Franklin, Harbaugh, mostly young, energetic, vibrant, elite recruiters, can produce NFL players. The Big Ten, just because of geographics and demographics in the country and movement, is not going to be athletically the SEC, but the Big Ten's real now. And it is an absolute buy if it was a stock. Okay, the SEC to me is not a buy. It's an expensive stock and has plateaued. And it's plateaued because the conference is now so deep and so talented and so thick, they're going to cannibalize each other. So, yes, the SEC is athletically superior to the Big Ten. But of all the conferences, the Big Ten has an incredible future. And it's all based on the fact they've got the right coaches in, and Big Ten football and Big Ten sports is the only thing up for grabs as far as major television rights in the next 2-3 years. Everybody's going to bid on it, and that means a lot of money to Big Ten schools to upgrade their facilities and pay $1 million for assistant coaches. That's where the SEC has been ahead of everybody. The money game.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
I had Mark Cuban on earlier today, and I love having Mark on. And I defended DeAndre Jordan, speaking of change and moving and free agency, and I supported him. And I said he's young, and he said he was going to go somewhere. Then he woke up and decided he wanted to go back with the Clippers. And it burned the Mavericks, their fan base, and Mark Cuban. And I asked Mark earlier today, what did you learn from the DeAndre Jordan situation?
Nothing.
Really?
Seriously. I mean, look, in all types of businesses, you have to understand the person you're dealing with. There's things we didn't understand about him, didn't know about him, gave him credit for that we probably shouldn't have given him credit for. And, it was a decision he couldn't stick to.
Now, DeAndre Jordan talked yesterday, and he said basically, listen, I woke up, and I just kind of felt after committing to the Mavs, something was off.
I woke up Monday morning feeling like there was something missing, like there was something that I didn't do, something that was not covered. And that's when I started to begin to have second thoughts. I feel like we've all made decisions in our lives where we had second thoughts about things and have gone back and had to revisit the situation, and I definitely feel like that this is one of those times for me.
Now, I said to Mark Cuban, I said, you're on Shark Tank. You guys bid, handshake deal, and then you go back and look at data and say, I'm backing out of this. So Mark Cuban did acknowledge that he doesn't have an issue with people changing their minds.
Look, people change their mind. I don't have a problem with that. Richard Jefferson called me yesterday or the day before, and we had a long talk, and, he changed his mind, and it made sense for both parties to say, okay, let's be friends. From a Mavs standpoint, did it screw us up just because of the way, the nature of free agency? I think we've recovered nicely so far, so it's not, but it wasn't optimal.
Get to Subway, new turkey, bacon, guac today, Subway, eat fresh. The other thing I touched on, and I was going to touch on this even before talking to Mark Cuban today, is the surging popularity of Donald Trump. And between immigration comments and John McCain quotes, he's a walking headline in a fireworks show. I don't have to agree with his quotes and his positions, but his surging popularity, Donald Trump, and I think it's a massive story. I don't think he'll ever be president, but I think he's important, and I think the reason he's surging in popularity is, one, the rest of the GOP candidates are sort of a yawn, and number two, he's authentic, clumsy, inarticulate, but he's authentic. And brutally honest in our society gains momentum and traction because so few are authentic and brutally honest. I don't think Trump's going to become president, but I like the fact he's mixing it up. I think with closer inspection, eventually during the debates, he'll be seen as mostly superficial without really broad understandings of many of the policies. I asked Mark Cuban, I said, you're a businessman. Why is Donald Trump getting so much support?
Two things. One, his name recognition is better than, I couldn't name all 15 Republican candidates. That's one. Two, I think people are tired of politics as usual. We're tired of everything being scripted. We're tired of every comment being politically correct. And, and even though Donald has to spend a lot of time pulling not just his foot, but the toenails and the stuff that falls off his cuticles out of his mouth, at least it's refreshing to have somebody who's just going to say what's on their mind and give an honest, if not insensitive response to a question.
Yeah. I mean, he's insensitive. But there are a lot of people out there that feel like he is saying what they want to say, but don't have the platform to say it. And he's not politically correct, and he does say things that are offensive to a lot of people, not everybody. And I think guys like that are important in the political process. Listen, we've had similar candidates. We really have. Trump's just more moneyed than most and more prominent than most and a better marketer than most. So I thought that was an interesting topic today. I've been off for the last 4 or 5 days and watched more TV than I normally do and watched a few more movies. By the way, Juror with Alec Baldwin is awful. Don't watch it. But I think the thing's been kind of fascinating. I think Donald Trump's interesting, and it's interesting. Public likes him mostly. Media hates him. Media hates him. A lot of the public likes him. Let's watch it play out. It's fun. Bob Stoops going to be coming on in about 8 minutes. Coach of Oklahoma. We're seeing all the media days. We are 50 days out from the start of the NFL season. And I make no bones, and nor will I apologize. I am a football fan. NFL, major college, I am a football fan. I expect this year to be one of the last years that we see Drew Brees and Peyton Manning at the top. You're starting to see erosion with both. I think we're going to see the advancement of Andrew Luck, the continual great play of Aaron Rodgers, the advancement of Russell Wilson. But I will say this, watching some baseball over the last couple days, we think there is a ton of parity in the NFL. And as I look at the NFL, I think the AFC is locked up. I think there's about 5 teams that can win the AFC. Colts because of luck, Patriots, Ravens, Steelers, that's about it. I don't put Denver in that class. 4 teams. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, New England, Colts. I think Miami's interesting. I think Cincinnati's interesting. I don't think they can win the AFC. The NFC, I think there's basically 2 dominant favorites. Green Bay and Seattle. Coin flip. We'll just wait to see the health and attrition both teams in December, January. After that, I think there's 3 or 4 interesting teams. I think the Dallas Cowboys are interesting. Philadelphia, New York Giants. I still maintain Detroit's got a lot of talent. The Lions have a lot of talent. But I don't think the NFL's as wide open as everybody says. I think the AFC, you can write down right now the 4 teams who should and will be favorites.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.